We're going to now have three presentations looking at the
Dwayne, Winseck too?
internet as it relates to market concentration, right? Solution or problem. We'll see. And first, we're going to have
Trying to decide if it wants
Dwayne?
to open it or not.
then Moran, and then Daeho, and then, so I'm going to sit there to watch so I can actually see the slides, right? And you have the eyes in the back of your head, so you don't need to.
My computer apparently is trying to decide whether or not
Okay, here we go.
It's trying to decide whether or not I want us to open it, and apparently it voted it yes. Just press down, it should advance your slides. It'll take a second to flip over, and
So how do we get?
just press the down key.
The down button, there we go. You're up.
And we're up.
Okay.
All right. So we have about 13 minutes.
Make it 12 so we have discussion time, 10 to 12.
Okay. I will try to get through this as efficiently as I can. So welcome back for installment 2 of Winseck and Canadian Media Concentration Research Project. Before I even get started, though, I want to point out 2 really special guests, at least special guests here for me. 2 of my lead hands on the project, Yemini right back here, and Ben Klass. So without them on this project, the project just wouldn't be happening. So thanks a lot, Yemini and Ben. So, a question here is how is this going to move down? It's here. Oh, let's see. Is that going to work? There we go. No, the down button isn't working. So, is the question here is internet, part of the solution or part of the problem? I'm going to give you kind of 4-part answers here, and some of it you saw already this morning. When you look with respect to concentration levels across the media as a whole, in the content industries, you get a pretty varied picture with with lower than lower levels of concentration than you find within many of the carrier industries or the platform media industries. And so the argument that I'm going to make here is concentration levels are, and to quote Ellie, astonishingly high for platform media industries. Ellie's made this point with respect to kind of worldwide trends in Who Owns the Media paper that he published a couple of years back. And I think that's it's largely confirmed by what we find in Canada, and it's especially so with respect to what I'll call core elements of the internet, and I'll show you what I mean by those in a second. Something very, very distinctive about the Canadian situation, vertical integration is astonishingly high by historical standards in Canada, relative to the United States, and relative to international standards, and I'll show you some evidence on that. And I think one of the interesting things that we see in Canada is there has been a response in the last couple of years. It's a moderate response, and one might wish for more, or perhaps you might wish for less. But 4 cases I'll point out in a little while where the regulator has come in and made determinations of fact, legal determinations of fact, that media concentration is not just speculative, but rather real, and that there has been abuse of significant market power to curb the development of new players and to work against kind of an open internet, open carriage model. And we've seen with this kind of rediscovery of market power, I'd say a rejection of what I would call a North American free market orthodoxy model, and kind of an attempt to reinstate the idea of common carriage as a central feature of the media landscape and as a way of curbing the power that is associated with vertical integration. But what this has resulted in is the industry pushing back with a kind of a regulatory whack-a-mole, and the main players trying to see whether or not the regulator really means it when it says that common carrier is the keystone principle. And so we've got a number of little kind of niche, very specialized areas that people are having to respond to in very rapid succession. You cannot put your eye off the ball in this context because there's always one more thing coming down the pipe, and so a lot of effort is needed just to put things on. So here again, we saw this earlier, so I won't I won't spend too much time on this slide, but what I really want to point out to is, look at the high concentration areas here. So if our question is internet, part of the solution or central to the problem, I think we can see it's central to the problem. So in terms of the delivery networks, very high levels, extremely high levels of concentration according to the DOJ's HHI standards, and going up to extremely or astonishingly high levels once we move into operating systems, web browsers, search, and so forth. So core elements of the internet certainly not immune to concentration. Here's a little something that I made up, an infographic. I just thought I'd trot it out we're continuing on with this research. The Canadian Media Concentration Project has just finished up with its 2014 data collection, made up this poster. You can buy one online if you want, and hang one up on your walls. This is kind of the lay of the land, a one-shot kind of shop to see who all the major players are, what they own, what their share of the market is, and so on and so forth. So we'll be taking orders afterwards during coffee. Here we go. If we just look at, and this is for the total network media economy as a whole, the share, CR1, CR4, and CR10 over the 30-year period that we've now tracked. We've got somewhat of that U-shaped thing. So CR1 down a little bit, as you can all see, but so early kind of decline in the late 80s and into the early 90s, and then a significant uptick at the CR4 and CR10 level ever since about 1996 or so on. So this kind of conforms with the broad patterns that we see within the U.S. Context, and we're seeing it replicated, but at a higher level in the Canadian context than what we would see in the U.S. Context. So I think this, again, this is a very distinctive quality about the Canadian media landscape, and I think it's absolutely crucial to understand this, and it's this vertical integration. So extremely high in Canada, that it has soared, and I'm going to show you this with the next slide. It has soared in the last half decade, meaning that, by our own historical standards, the historical standards within Canada, we are now at very, very high levels. And I would suggest that this is a response to kind of the developments in the media environment and the kind of the fragmentation. So with fragmentation has been a kind of response to try to reconsolidate under kind of single corporate umbrellas, a larger slice of the media pie, and then again relative to U.S. and international standards. So here we go, showing the historical standards. So take a look at this. In 2008, the top three vertically integrated media companies. There were basically three vertically integrated media companies in 2008, and they had about 27% of the overall market. Fast forward to 2014, and basically that number had doubled. All right, we have now four major vertically integrated companies, and they have just under 60% of the total market share. And so these four companies basically, they operate across the swath of the media, and one could also argue that this actually kind of underplays the situation because there's a regional kind of specificity that's not captured in these national measures. So if you were to just measure, what the situation looks like in English-speaking markets or within Ontario versus Western Canada, the levels would actually be even higher. So, by working at the national level, we're actually kind of mitigating the extensity of this. Now, to give you an idea of what this looks like relative to the United States, just kind of fix your eye on that 57.5%. And I try to do, and this is a bit quick and dirty to show you what the comparison looks like in the United States. So if we look, and I kind of used 2013 data, and then I just pretended that the AT&T's acquisition of DirecTV had already taken place to give you an idea there of what the top four vertically integrated media companies in the United States would look like. So we have about 37% of the total media economy, based on those 13 sectors that are at the core of our media, the International Media Concentration Research Project. So we look, here we go against the 30 or so countries that are in the International Media Concentration Research Project. Here we have Canada. Right here, we are number 1 in a category that I don't think we want to be number 1 in. And I think this is really important. I think the vertical integration is really important because what it shows us is, it shows us a way of thinking beyond just the idea of content, okay? But content is still important. It shows us that, 1, content is subordinate, as I said earlier today, to carriage, okay? But it also shows us, and we had a fellow from Bell in one of my classes a couple of weeks ago, and what it does is it biases these companies towards an entirely different logic, a logic of control. And what the Bell representative that spoke to my class talked about the other day was the importance of, for example, ensuring geo-blocking. The importance of making sure that VPNs were not too widely used within Canada in order to protect national rights markets. All right? So it basically biases these companies to using the networks as networks of control versus, keeping open pipes, network neutrality, and so on and so forth. All right? So, as I said, the regulator has not been entirely asleep at the switch, although it's kind of entered the scene rather late in the game. We've had 4 major decisions in the last year alone that kind of push back against the repercussions of extensive vertical integration. The mobile TV case, a classic David versus Goliath case, and this is interesting. Ben Class here is the one that pressed this case, and it was basically a case of discrimination in which Bell offered you 10 hours of video for $5 a month over your mobile phone, but if you watch 10 hours of video from any other source outside of Bell's package, it would cost you $40 a month. The regulator said that that was discriminatory, violation of the Telecommunications Act, pushed back. Bell is now appealing that to the Federal Court of Appeal. Unbundling of the cable channels, a wholesale mobile wireless framework, as well as wholesale wireline framework for access to fiber to the home, fiber to the node. All right. Lessons, you can read them, that significant market power exists. This is a finding of legal fact that the North American free market model rejected. And basically that whatever competition there does exist within the telecoms, the infrastructure level, is a function of regulation, not the market on its own.
Thank you.
Good. And there we are. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, terrific. Moran, Israel. Why don't you just go through these and then we'll all come up together. So, the question was, you had the two,
Yeah.
one was 3 firms, the other was 4 firms, and Bell wasn't included in 2008, but Bell was included in 2014. So if you added the Bell to 2008, it didn't, at the margin, it didn't really.
Yeah, Bell wasn't vertically integrated in 2008. It didn't own the content. It didn't own TV broadcasting.
Okay, so the market shares are not apples to apples from 2008 to 2014 in the.
They're showing the vertically integrated companies, and so Bell wasn't vertically integrated in 2008.
So when they became vertically integrated, that's what really kicked it up.
It bumps it up, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me do this real quick.
And then while they're finding that, think about the apparent paradox between the highest HHI was on OS, right? But so if that's the case, then how does then the OS HHI, since there's no Canadian firm that owns or controls any of the OS, in other words, sorry. Well, yeah, but BlackBerry's share. Well,
They're getting out of the business.
but that's not. The failure of BlackBerry is not vertically integrated. BlackBerry's not vertically integrated into any. In other words, the question is, what's the relationship? In other words, again, it's apples to apples, oranges to oranges. When you're looking at, HHIs and different components within the stack, it's all there. The question is, do you need to look at HHI at different layers of the
Oh,
stack
absolutely,
separately,
and
and then
that's-
what the relationships are?
I think that's the beauty of the method that I've learned through this project, and I keep referring to it as a scaffolding approach. You start at the bottom, sector by sector,
So,
and then you
look,
move
look,
up.
look, he's ready, so we'll come back to that. So,
Well, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for inviting me. Well, this panel poses the question whether the internet is the solution to market concentration or the problem. It's a very big question. My short answer would be that the internet is both a partial solution to the problem and also creates a problem, a pressing problem. Let me start by briefly pointing out some data regarding my country, Israel, which pretty much correlates with the overall trends identified by Eli on the global scale. The market for broadband access is dominated by two players, the incumbent telecom company Bezeq and the cable company Hot. Historically in Israel, there has been a differentiation between ownership of the pipes and the provision of internet access over the pipes, between ISPs and ownership of the broadband infrastructure. In recent years, the distinction has been eroded, with Hot receiving a license to operate as an ISP as well. In any event, the ISP market, there are only 4 significant players, and concentration is also very high. The same goes with mobile wireless, also highly concentrated, though numbers are declining. The story of the search engine market is very interesting in Israel. There is no local internet search engine. And Google is practically has absolute dominance in the market. There is no presence almost whatsoever to Bing or Yahoo. I guess that the numbers then today in 2015 would be even higher, close to 100% domination of Google in the search engine market. As for online media news, concentration here is relatively low, especially compared to the situation in the print and broadcast sectors. However, we should take into account that 2 of the most dominant players, the Yediot Achronot and the Haaretz groups, are also dominant players in the print market. And others, such as Mako, Reshet, Nana Essa, also operate in the broadcast sector. So there is a kind of a correlation between the presence of certain players in the online media market and their presence in more traditional markets. So the picture is that of a highly concentrated market. However, having said this, these numbers in themselves, I don't think they provide a conclusive answer as to whether or not the internet is the solution to market concentration or only worsens the problem. The answer, I think, is more complex. The concentration, the numbers, the relevant markets in the internet sector are highly concentrated. Many are much more concentrated than traditional media markets or even 20th century media markets. As we all know, whether it is Google in online search, YouTube in online video sharing, eBay in auctions, Facebook in social networking, or Amazon in digital books, the leading internet players govern online life. And they govern online life in Israel, they govern online life in the US, and in other countries, of course, as well. At the same time, we should bear in mind that these governors of online life govern aspects of speech and behavior that were not previously part of human communicative capabilities, at least not on the same scale, intensity, and level of immediacy. So the fact that concentration levels in the internet sector are higher than those in traditional media sectors does not in itself suggest that the internet intensifies traditional problems. It does, however, create new ones. In order to understand the difference between the problems posed by concentration in traditional media and the problems posed by concentration on the internet, I think we should take one step backwards and recall why media concentration is a problem to begin with. Very generally speaking, under the 20th century mass media model of information production, the reason for which concentration was considered a problem was that only very few entities possessed the capacity to speak, the effective capacity to speak, with all the implications this may have on democracy and collective self-governance. So this was a problem of speaker concentration. Although this problem has not vanished in the digital age, we cannot overlook the fact that the internet has contributed in giving individuals heightened expressive capacity. There were comments made here before lunch about the lowering of access barriers, these facts are true. So the internet has done so to the point where the traditional distinction between the notion of having a right to freedom of expression in the abstract and having means for expression in reality, and a distinction that was very central to the conception of free speech during the 20th century, is no longer existent or normatively tenable. This environment of heightened expressive capacity does not necessarily reflect in the economic analysis of online markets, because such analysis is not meant to take into account the speech of the non-professional many, as well as the potential interrelations between this type of speech and, for example, traditional news media outlets. Still, not all is good about the internet, and in fact, much is very bad. The internet has evolved to be a highly concentrated environment of speech regulators and mediators who are in a position to exert power over other speech. So user speech is only as strong as the weakest link in the chain of intermediaries between the speech of the user and its audience, and his or her audience. From web hosting services to upstream providers to DNS, ISPs, search engines, payment services providers, and third-party platforms such as Facebook. So concentration in each of these links means more power for the players or the player in that link, and more susceptibility to exploitation of that power. So concentration on the internet leads to what can be described as the irony, or perhaps the paradox, of free speech in the digital age, an age of heightened individual expressive capacity on the one hand, and heightened potential for interference by others on the other hand. An age of increasing capacity to speak and diminishing liberty. These aspects of diminishing liberty are characterized by loss of anonymity due to pervasive technologies of surveillance, loss of inviolability in the sense that in political theory there is an independent value to the fact that we have a right not to be harmed, regardless of whether we are harmed or not. There is a value to having a right to free speech, regardless of whether this right is infringed upon. And in the internet world, we do not have that right towards many potential speech regulators, as opposed to the state, for example. So in that sense, we have also a loss of inviolability and a sense of there's a whole set of players that can interfere with our speech, and we don't have a right to oppose that interference. Maybe only end user agreements vis-a-vis Facebook or this kind of legal tools, but these are obviously not enough, and they are also obviously formulated by the powerful side. Another aspect in this respect is the potential for interference from multiple sources, not only the state. Again, a whole set of players that are in a position to exert power over our speech, as opposed for example, to the 20th century mode of information production, because under the 20th century mode of information production, there was a small number of powerful speakers, but they themselves did not usually have the power to control other speech. Okay? It was not part of their business model. The business model of online players is to have as much as possible speech of others, although it needs to be controlled and contained in a way that will correlate with the business interests of these companies. And there are also new modes of interference, not only censorship, but also, for example, manipulation. If it's manipulation of search engine results, if it's strategic manipulation of forum discussions, and so on. So again, the question, there is a problem of concentration in the internet. It's not the same problem, I think, as the problem that we faced prior to the internet, but it's not less of a problem, maybe even a bigger problem. Before concluding, I would like to make a remark about Netflix, which I think is an example that is different from Google, Facebook, or other intermediaries, in the sense that Netflix is not in the position to exert power over other speech, and it represents a different type of threat than that posed by internet intermediaries. The internet is increasingly organized around serving video from a small number of providers to a large number of consumers, primarily thanks to CDNs such as Akamai. Video streaming via Netflix accounts for nearly 35% of peak downstream traffic in the United States. Real-time entertainment accounts for more than 67% of all consumer internet traffic over fixed lines and nearly 40% of all mobile traffic. And it is estimated that video demands across the internet, not including peer-to-peer, will grow to 79% of internet traffic by 2018. The developing model of content distribution over the internet thus seems to be adopting central characteristics of traditional mass media, or as one commentator put it, I think it was Christian Sandvik. The internet is now television, or it will be soon. So Netflix-type concentration, as opposed to Google-type concentration or Facebook-type concentration, bears more resemblance to 20th century type media concentration, although I think that in this respect we're still far away from reaching that type of concentration, this type of 20th century concentration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then finally, Daeho Kim from South Korea.
Good. Just put it down by hips. Okay, good afternoon. It's getting to the 4 o'clock now, so it's time to be tired. And but even though we are tired, our mission is going on, and then I will do briefly. This session theme is internet, but let me start from the findings of the previous project, and from the findings, it was revealed that internet media is highly concentrated, very concentrated. There are so many reasons, like something like that. High cost, high fixed cost, low marginal cost. These are cliches for explaining this situation. We all know that. Also, internet raised the capital intensity of key segments of media, like companies, something like that, have global market share that exceed all those of conventional market. And then also 2013, we could see, for instance, Jeff Bezos buying the Washington Post or something like that. So probably in the book, in conclusion, he said that the internet will be a problem of force of concentration. Do you think so? To me, I agree with this result, but partly. I have a different view on this issue. As you all know, internet influenced media heavily previously, from the paper, spectrum, cable to now internet and mobile and many things. But internet is going on. Internet now evolves to IoT, Internet of Things, as you know. In IoT area, I think definition media also can be changed heavily by the IoT area. In the IoT area, the most important thing, I guess, is that things become media. Things connect to each other, and then, of course, things and people connect, people and people connected, and more of that. O2O is now in reality, not just the future things. It's on reality in some countries. Online to offline, offline to online connection can be seen everywhere, and then it's spreading. So probably you know that this year's World Economic Forum, the Schmidt said that the internet will disappear. It will be part of your presence all the time. But here, the internet, we are talking about not one of the just technology, but this is a ubiquitous elements of our lives, and of course, including media and technology. Therefore, it is natural that internet influenced the media heavily, and then as a result, it's also natural that internet companies enter into the media industry. This phenomena can be seen all over the world, in the United States, in like that, in China, probably from we have heard from Min Hang's presentation in the morning, and Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, something like that. They invest hugely in media and entertainment industry. Like that, yesterday I mentioned already, so I do not repeat it. But this kind of internet firms entering into the media industry can be seen in other countries. In Korea, in Japan, same thing happened. And also, internet brings about a new market and a business model. Internet innovates media format, content, distribution, and all the things. And then from this mixture, from this combination, new things, new service, new business model emerged. Like that, for instance, digital music market is a new phenomenon, as you know, replacing the conventional music. Game market is changing. New game model, new business model is emerging from the combination of the internet and the conventional media mode. And webtoon, in the previous session, you talking about the cartoon animation in Japan, but cartoon is already old-fashioned media in Asia, and including China and Japan and Korea. Webtoon is replacing the old-fashioned animation cartoon, just cartoon. Webtoon is not different. It's not just the uploading the webtoon on the web. It's totally different content, different format. It's quite optimized to internet or website. So internet brings about this new business model. Native ad is also something like that. So there are many cases from this combination of internet and conventional media. So in order to respond to this new situation, conventional media companies should respond also like that. As we all know, mostly they seek innovation of media industry. They are all research, innovation, something. So it is become popular to all of the media industry, media companies. So as you know, last year, New York Times Innovation Report was revealed. And this year, the BBC also published a Future of the News. And then interestingly, in the BBC report, they emphasize this kind of journalist value, quality, openness, something like that. Let's see. They said that they are not just broadcasting or conventional media. They want beyond broadcasting, beyond the conventional media. But these kind of notions can be seen in other countries, all of the media, probably leading media in the world. Like in Korea, just last month, one of the big media company of Korea, JM Network. JM Network is a sort of media conglomerate, and then they published the future vision of 2015, and then in that vision, they also regard digital and this journalistic value is their core strategy for the future. So we don't need to repeat the influence of media on internet. Internet itself is a media, and internet is a constant in media considerations. So when given this kind of background, what is the impact of internet on media concentration? Is it a solution or a problem? We think of the answer for the questions. And firstly, I'd like to think of a number of media firms. It's sure that newcomers enter the industry. Therefore, in total, number of media companies is growing. For instance, in China, even though the conventional media sector is owned by the state in China, for instance, but these days, you can be surprised how the media online, particularly online contents startup begin in China. Huge, amazing situation in China these days. And also in Korea, yes, online platform increased so much. But on the other hand, number of conventional media firms decreases, like cable or in Korea, in the US, something like that. Also in Japan, same thing happened. Secondly, in terms of revenues, also digital advertising is growing and like that. But so in so doing, the big companies increased the investment to media industry, and then, interestingly, Chinese big three, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, increased foreign direct investment. One of them is now a big problem for Korea. Like Tencent invests huge money to Korean firms. They invest $700 million in just only for Korean game industry. This kind of things are now spreading to other countries like Korea and Japan. But also it is important to think of the other perspective, particularly from the consumer perspective. Surely, consumers have more choices, so we can classify two periods different. In the short term and in the long term, it should be different result. In the short term, new entrants give more choices, so that is good for consumers. They influence incumbents in terms of production and distribution. So incumbents also must respond to these changing situations. And so there is a gap between conventional media company and internet media. I think media industry structure is still in the transition period. It is one of the paradox that while digital contents consumption is growing, but paid consumption is slowing. So as a result, I think that we consider two-tier media market. The one is mass market, where big global media players with big heavy media concentration index battle fiercely. The global expansion is inevitable, as we saw in the last session. So number of major conventional firms probably decreased, but the other is we have a new market, like a long tail market, where, for instance, online media startup enters, and the ventures, so many ventures can enter this very new and opening market. Also, local market firms are still sustainable in society because value of locality, as also we discussed in the last session, locality, plurality is emphasized as well. So particularly, as I mentioned yesterday, in the local level, online video platform shows global players and local players mixed together. for instance, in Asian countries, including China, Japan, and Korea, shows these mixed industry situations can be seen. And one of the example in China, internet surely changed the market industry a lot. Internet actually opened the previously wholly state-owned market industry. Therefore, I can say that the internet influenced media concentration negatively as well as positively. That's my answer to the question that was asked to me. Thank you.
So we actually do not have time to discuss, right? We have two conclusions that the internet's a problem, and we have a third conclusion that the internet actually is part of the solution, and we're not going to have time to discuss. But my suggestion is, since I'm also moderating the last session, which is framed as the Google, Facebook, Netflix problem, but there's only two presenters, maybe we can get some time back then to have the conversation. The two things actually do relate to one another. We've got, to get us back on